I left my family behind after they betrayed me. I, 25M, grew up in a pretty tight-knit family. I have a brother, 24M, and sister, 22F, and was very close to my parents, 52M, 50F. Spending every holiday there, most weekends during college. We grew up on the suburbs of Minneapolis and all went to the University of Minnesota. A year ago, if you would have told me where I would be at today, I would have laughed at your pessimism. But here we are. I met Stacy, 24F, during my sophomore year of college, and we dated until I proposed last December. She said yes, and we were planning on getting married next summer and spending our lives in Minnesota. But in April, my life fell apart. I came home early to find my brother in bed with my fiancée. I freaked out and left and kicked her out of our shared apartment. Days later, she came back and said she had fallen in love with my brother over the years and that she was sorry but was where her heart was. She moved out and I blocked her and my brother. Initially, the rest of my family took my side and banned my brother from family events. I slowly began to heal. I had a work opportunity come up. My boss pulled me in and said that he had suggested I lead the office in Chicago. They are kind of mess and the company wanted someone from headquarters to take over. I couldn't believe it, but I said yes. I never thought I'd leave Minnesota but thought it was time for a change. This all happened in early November and the plan was to move after Christmas. My plan was to tell the family at Thanksgiving and then spend Christmas one last time before moving. But of course, my ex and brother had to stick the knife in one last time before they left. When I showed up for Thanksgiving at my parents' house, there were several cars as the whole extended family comes over, so I didn't even notice my brother's car. I entered the house and the first thing I see is my ex and brother talking with my aunt. I freeze as my aunt calls for my mom to come in. My brother and ex won't look me in the eye. My mom and dad come in, greet me and ask me to sit down in the living room. I sit away from my brother and ex, but I see the rest of the family, including my sister, sits closer to them. My mom starts explaining that what they did was wrong and terrible, but that she hates that the family is split. She says I need to work toward forgiveness. My ex and brother both started to apologize, but I put my hand up. I turned to my sister and asked her if she agreed. She had tears in her eyes but nodded. Asked my dad the same question, he said yes pretty firmly. I was alone. I got up and walked out. I heard a couple people yelling after me but I didn't respond. I drove to a McDonald's. Ate a pretty shitty Thanksgiving meal and went through my options and decided cutting them off was my best bet. I had saved plenty. I didn't need them and they didn't know where I was moving. I blocked them all on my phone, but it was my parents' plan that I was on, so I turned the phone in the next week and got on my own plan. Doubled my cell bill, but it was worth it to get a new number. I blocked them on social media, and I told my boss that I wanted to move to Chicago early. Talked to the landlord of the apartment I was looking to rent and he was happy to let me in early. I moved to Chicago on December 15th and my family had no idea. A few friends knew and it must have slipped because last night I got an Instagram DM from what I assume is my mom on a new profile asking why I would move without telling them and that the family missed and loved me and that I needed to still make time for Christmas. I responded by saying that she only had one son now and that I was no longer family. I then blocked her new account and locked down my profile and other social media. I'd been looking to change my last name as well. I've left that life behind and I'm excited to see what Chicago has to offer. In January, one of my sister's friends, Jenny, 23F, messaged me wanting to know she was in the city and if I would help her move in and show her around. Now a smarter guy would probably have been able to figure out what was up, but she is very attractive and so I thought with something other than my brain. It was the weekend after the New Year and when I got to her place I could see my brother and father moving her stuff out of the U-Haul. I stopped but my mom had been looking out and called out to me. Everyone stopped and stared. I rolled my eyes and walked away. They chased after me and tried to get me to talk to them. My brother and ex were crying saying they felt terrible. My dad finally grabbed me by the shoulder and turned me around telling me to stop being an ass. Before I even knew what I was doing, I punched him in the face and kept walking away. Other people in the street stopped and stared and my family told me I went too far. None of it mattered. I kept walking. Once I was on the L, I messaged Jenny and told her what she did was cruel and to find someone else to show her around. Didn't expect to hear anything else from her. But to my surprise, I woke up 2 days later to a long message from her apologizing and saying she had done it as a favor for my sister. She knew what my brother had done and felt I deserved to live my life how I chose, but that my sister had been insistent and she felt like maybe she had missed something. She told me that after the punch, they walked back to her apartment and finished moving her in. She said she understands how I feel and thought I might like to hear the aftermath. Apparently my father and sister really haven't forgiven my brother and think my mom let him back in too soon. My brother and dad got on a nasty fight and Jenny asked them to leave because they were causing a scene. Jenny begged me to see her again and said she really felt bad and wanted to buy me dinner. I took her up on it. You'd also be naive if you knew Jenny, I promise. And luckily, I am naive. Jenny and I hit it off and have been inseparable ever since. We are meeting heading back to Minnesota so she can introduce us to her family for Christmas. She actually cut off my sister and has promised I won't have to see them at all. Jenny's 23F family seemed to welcome me with open arms. I had a good chat with her dad about Big Ten football. His mom wanted to know what I did for work and how her daughter was adjusting to Chicago and if she was protected. No one mentioned my family, which, looking back, was a huge red flag. We had a great Christmas Eve dinner with the holiday-approved fettuccine Alfredo. Christmas morning I got some good presents and we had a relaxing afternoon. But then Christmas dinner came. Jenny's mom set out 5 extra chairs and said family friends were coming over. I didn't think much of it until the doorbell rang. And you guessed it, in walked my parents, sister, and the asshole couple themselves. Turns out Christmas was an intervention for me to speak with my family. They came in looking smug. My mom started talking, saying that I needed to forgive and that what they did was wrong but my actions were unacceptable. My father then chimed in saying that enough is enough, and that my punishment was complete. That my brother had done enough to earn the family's forgiveness. I shouldn't have, but I couldn't help myself. What family is that? Your family. I'm not a part of any family. I changed my last name, I feel nothing for any of you. You chose him over me. That spoke volumes. You changed your last name? I looked over. Stacy had spoken. Just about everyone was shocked into silence. You loved your last name, you always told me it's you connected to your favorite baseball player. Favorite baseball manager and Billy Martin would have changed his last name too if his family had been the goons you all are. Jenny, find your own way home. I'll get my stuff later. With that I got up. Everyone was yelling after me but I didn't care. I got in the rental and drove it straight through to my apartment. Got back at 3 a.m. this morning. No idea how Jenny is going to get home but fuck her and fuck her whole family. On to the next day I guess. After I got back Jenny tried to come over and apologize. She came over one night in late December, knocked on my door and tried to tell me I was overreacting until the neighbors told her to shut up. I did open the door long enough to give her the box of her stuff she had left. She never did return the favor. Haven't seen her since she left. Lost my favorite hoodie but life goes on. Not long after this I was getting groceries when I ran into Molly, then 24 now 26F. Molly worked with Jenny and we had talked at their Christmas party. Molly had heard about the breakup and let's just say she aggressively wanted to take me to coffee. She knew what she wanted and she wouldn't take no for an answer. It was a bit much, not going to lie, but coffee with her was exactly what I needed. Mostly because she is exactly what I wanted, needed, she was everything. I guess I'm one of those guys that never wants to be single. Molly and I have been together for 2 years now, living together for 1, and recently we found out she was pregnant. We are overjoyed. I wouldn't say it was planned, but not like we were doing much to avoid it either. Now to the dilemma. My life is so much better. I haven't heard from my parents and Molly has respected that. She blocked all my relatives when I asked and has had no contact. But of course somehow my mother found out. She sent a box of my old baby stuff along with a letter asking that I let her see the baby. I kept the baby stuff, it was mine after all, but threw the letter away without responding. Thought that would be the end of it, but then my sister showed up at my doorstep. Molly answered the door and of course had no idea who this crazy lady is, but Molly kind of lost the upper hand when she started crying and let her in. My sister said she missed me and that Stacy and my brother got married last year, and she and her dad didn't go. Apparently my mom and dad are separated but not divorced. My sister is engaged and Stacy found out recently she can't have kids. I told my sister once again that I was no longer a part of the family, but she said her and our dad really want to make it up to me. That she is not inviting her mom or her brother to the wedding. She said my dad could come down this weekend to talk. Molly said she understands how hurt I am, and knows that they crossed many boundaries, but maybe it's time to forgive. She didn't push though. Stated she supports me either way. I just don't know. What do you all think? I know from the stories that my dad and sister disagreed with my mom. Growing up, my mom controlled the house and my brother was my mom's favorite. My sister is my dad's favorite, so if my sister is on board, then my dad probably is too.